Hello dear students, this is Dr. Agnes Kharat from MGV's Art, Science and Commerce College, Surgana. Welcome for today's session. We are going to learn our second chapter, General Features of Kingdom Animalia. In the introduction, let's have a look on history of classification. Ancient Greek philosopher Aristotle have divided the entire living world into two kingdoms, Kingdom Animalia and Kingdom Plantae. In 17th century, Carl Linnaeus developed classification based on similar properties. He was the founder of universally accepted binomial nomenclature system. Later on, in 1960, Whitaker proposed the five kingdom classification system. And now, at present, we have adopted or we are using three domain classification system. Now, what is three domain classification system? Three domain classification system, it was developed by Carl Woese in 1990 for classifying biological organisms. The current three domain classification system groups organisms primarily based on differences in ribosomal RNA. Ribosomal RNA means rRNA. Ribosomal RNA is a molecular building block for ribosomes. Under this system, organisms are classified into three domains and six kingdoms. The three domains are archaea, bacteria and eukarya. And the kingdoms are archibacteria. Archibacteria are also called as ancient bacteria, eubacteria, which are called as true bacteria, protista, fungi, plantae and animalia. So this is now universally accepted three domain classification system. Now we'll learn general features of Kingdom Animalia. Animals are multicellular. They devoid of photosynthetic pigment, so they are heterotrophic in nutrition. They cannot synthesize their food material. They depend on other organisms to get their food. So they are heterotrophic in mode of nutrition. Ingestive nutrition and digestion. They ingest their food material. Animals are made up of cells that do not have cell walls. They show higher level of tissue organization. Animals are capable of motion in some stage of their lives. Animals are able to respond quickly to external stimuli as a result of nerve cells, muscles or contractile tissue or both of them. Most of the animals reproduces sexually by means of differentiated haploid cells. This differentiated haploid cells means eggs and sperms. Eggs are female gamete and sperms are male gamete. Most of the animals are diploid. It means that the cells of adult contain two copies of the genetic material. Animals, they range in size from no more than few cells to organisms weighing many tons. Just like blue whale, the largest animal on the earth is a blue whale, and there are certain bacteria which are not visible to eyes, so they are made up of single cell. Most animals inhabit the sea. That means most of the animals which are living on the earth, they inhabit in the sea, they lives in the sea with fewer in fresh water and very few they live on land. Cell is a basic functional unit of any living organisms. Cell is a basic functional unit of any living organisms. Two or more cells, they combine together to form tissues. Tissues combine together to form organs, and organs combine together to form system in living organisms. This is how an organism develops. These cells have to differentiate and become specialized in various ways. So these are some of the important characteristic or features of Kingdom Animalia. Animal kingdom shows two kind of embryonic layers, and accordingly they are classified into diploblastic animals and triploblastic animals. Diploblastic animals, they have two embryonic layers, ectoderm and endoderm. For example, coelenterate are diploblastic animals. Triploblastic animals, three embryonic layers are present in these animals: ectoderm, mesoderm and endoderm. From phylum Platyhelminthes onwards till chordate, all of them, they are triploblastic organisms. Coelom. Coelom is the space between the body wall and the gut wall. According to the presence of coelom, the animals are classified into three categories. These three categories are coelomates, that means true coelom is present in these animals. For example, annelids and further phylums till chordata, they are all coelomates. Pseudocoelomates, that means mesoderm present is in the form of scattered pouches between ectoderm and endoderm. So Aschelhelminthes, they are pseudocoelomates animal. And the third type is acoelomate organisms. Coelom cavity is not present. Body cavity is absent. Platyhelminthes organisms are acoelomate organisms. Notochord is a rigid rod-like structure formed on the dorsal side during embryonic development in some animals, and accordingly animals are classified as chordate and non-chordate. Non-chordate is further divided into 10 major phylums: Porifera, Coelenterata, Ctenophora, Platyhelminthes, Aschelhelminthes, Annelida, Mollusca, Arthropoda, Echinodermata and Hemichordata. Hemichordata is the connecting link between chordate and non-chordate. Now children will learn about grades of organization. In animal kingdom, the protozoans, they are called as acellular organisms. That means they have a cellular type of grade of organizations. This acellular organisms, they also called as protoplasmic grade of organizations have animal. All functions are confined within the boundaries of a single cell. Within the cell, protoplasm is differentiated into organelles capable of performing specialized functions, and division of labor among the cell organelle is observed. Protozoans, they exhibit a cellular grade of organizations. Examples are some of the protozoans. Examples are given you in this slide: Trypanosoma, Euglena, Plasmodium, Paramecium, Opalina. These are all organisms having a cellular grade of organization. Metazoans exhibit higher level of organizations. So, for example, cellular, tissue and organ level of organizations. That means metazoan organisms shows three kind of grade of organization. So the first type is cellular type of organization or cellular grade of organization. these are the organisms. Most of them, they are sponges. The cells are arranged as a loose cell aggregates. Cells are capable of performing specialized functions. Division of labor is observed among cells. Nerve cells and sensory cells are absent in these animals. True tissues are also absent, as they are showing cellular grade of organization. So no tissues. Cells are not strongly associated to perform specific collective functions. They are just aggregation of cells. So examples is sponges. So you should remember some of the examples like Spongilla, Calina, Hyloneema, Cycon, Euplectilla. So these are the examples of organisms showing cellular grade of organization. Next is tissue level of organization. Tissue grade of organizations. It is an arrangement of cell. It is more complex. Here in these organisms, the arrangement of cell is more complex. The cells performing the same functions are highly coordinated and arranged into tissues. The functions of different tissues are also coordinated. Nerve cells and sensory cells are present in these organisms. So this is important point. Nerve cells and sensory cells are present. The tissues are not assembled into organs. Embryonic ectoderm give rise to the epidermis, the outer layer of the body wall. Endoderm give rise to the gastrodermis, the inner layer of the body wall that lines the gut, and between the epidermis and gastrodermis, a non-cellular layer is present which is called as mesoglium. And the example of organisms which shows this type of grade of organization is from phylum Coelenterata. Sea anemone, Physalia, Hydra, corals, Aurelia. Aurelia are commonly called as or commonly known as jellyfishes. Now, the most important grade of organization is organ level of grade of organization. The tissues are grouped together to form organs. Each organ performs a particular functions. Primary level of organ type of grade organization is observed in case of organisms belonging to Platyhelminthes kingdom. Then the more modified type of organ system of organization or organ system of grade of organization is observed in the organisms belonging to phylum Annelid, Arthropod, Mollusca, Echinodermata up to Chordata. In these organisms, the organs are associated to form functional system. Each system performs a particular physiological functions. In these organisms, all the tissues are derived from the three germ layers, as these organisms are triploblastic organisms. Highly specialized sensory cells are present in these organisms. They bring about higher level of coordination and integration of the constituent tissues, organs and systems. Endocrine system is present in higher triploblastic organisms, and 11 different kinds of organ systems are observed in these organisms. So these 11 types of organ systems are integumentary, skeletal, muscular, digestive, respiratory, circulatory, excretory, nervous, endocrine, immune and reproductive system. So student, what we have learned till now, in the animals like Platyhelminthes, Annelids, Arthropoda, mollusk, echinoderm and the chordate, organs have associated to form functional systems, and each system concerned with a specific physiological function, and this pattern is called as organ system level of organization. So here in this chart we can observe the animal kingdom classification. Animal kingdom is divided into chordate and non-chordate. We have seen it earlier according to the presence of notochord. In non-chordate, phylum Porifera shows cellular level of grade of organization. Tissue level of grade of organization is observed in case of phylum Nidaria, and organ system level of grade of organization is seen in rest of the non-chordate phylum. But in this phylum Platyhelminthes and phylum Nematoda, they are acoelomate organisms, and phylum Annelida, Arthropoda, Mollusca and Echinodermata, they are all coelomate organisms. Vertebrates are further classified into class Pisces, amphibia, reptilia, aves and mammals. They all show organ system of grade of organization. And class Pisces is further divided into cartilaginous fishes and bony fishes, that is Osteichthyes and Bronchicythus. Now students, there are some complexities observed in organ system level of grade of organization. First example is of digestive system. Platyhelminthes has single opening. Now here I have shown you example from the Platyhelminthes, planaria. It has a single opening in the body which serves both as a mouth as well as anus. That means from the same opening food is taking inside the food can be taken inside the body, and through the same opening waste material from the body is thrown out from the body. And in higher organisms, for example fish, we can see there are two different openings of digestive system. So in Platyhelminthes, we can say the digestive system is incomplete digestive system, and in other higher organisms which shows two openings, two separate openings, mouth and anus, we can say that they have a complete digestive system. The next example is circulatory system. Circulatory system, it is of two types. Open type of circulatory system, blood is directly pumped out of the heart and cells and tissues are directly bathed into it. The example I have shown you, all the insects, they have open type of circulatory system. And closed type of circulatory system, in this system blood circulated through the series of vessels, for example veins, arteries and capillaries. All the higher animals from phylum Annelida onwards, they show closed type of circulatory system. Now let's learn about symmetry. But before learning about symmetry, we should understand what is asymmetry. Asymmetry is the animals which cannot be cut into two equal parts in any plane through the center of the body. These animals are called as asymmetrical organisms. In asymmetrical organisms, the body lacks a definite form. The body cannot be divided into mirror halves by any plane. They do not develop complex sensory and locomotory functions. The example is amoeba, most of the sponges, adult gastropods. So I've shown you the example of amoeba and apple snail. So these are the animals which cannot be divided into two equal halves. So these are asymmetric organisms. Now next is symmetry. The animals which can be divided into two equal parts or enteromeres in one or more planes passing through the principal axis of the body are called as symmetrical organisms. There are four kinds of symmetry: spherical symmetry, radial symmetry, biradial symmetry, and bilateral symmetry. The first one is spherical symmetry. This type of symmetry is very rare. It is found in most of the protozoans. The body has a form of a sphere. Body parts arranged concentrically around a central point. All axes passing through the central point are apolar. Any one of the infinite number of planes that pass through the central point divides the body into enteromeres or parts. Spherical forms are best suited for floating and rolling in the water bodies. Example is a protozoan radiolarian. Next type is radial symmetry. Forms that can be divided into similar halves by more than two planes passing through it are called to have radial symmetry. Animals with radial symmetry are usually sessile, free floating, or weaker swimmer, or weakly swimming we can say. Like a wheel, animals with this spend most of their time floating or attached to the rock. Example is some sponges and most of the cnidarian organisms and adult form of echinoderms. Echinoderms adult, they most of the time shows pentamerous symmetry. So radial symmetry is observed in starfish, sea cucumber, hydra. So these are the some of the examples of radial symmetry. What are the advantages of radial symmetry? Differences between the dorsal and ventral surface allows jellyfish to float upright. Sea anemone grip rock with their ventral surface and collect food with their specialized dorsal surface. So this is one of the important advantage for sea anemone and jellyfish. Now human being, they always take inspiration from the nature. Architects and engineers use radial symmetrical designs for structures such as fire hydrants and lighthouses. You can see the picture of fire hydrant and lighthouse so that the structures will be accessible or visible from any horizontal direction. Now we'll learn about biradial symmetry. Tiered arrangement at some structures in radially symmetrical animals results into the biradial symmetry. Biradial symmetry, it is a combination of radial and bilateral symmetry. It shows two planes of symmetry. First one is passing along the oral aboral axis and the long axis of the mouth. And the second one is passing along the oral aboral axis and the short axis of the mouth. The example is animals from Ctenophora. These are strictly animals which lives in the, these are the animals which lives in sea, marine organisms. These are strictly marine organisms, animals from phylum Ctenophora. Now here we can observe the biradial symmetry, that is a combination of radial and bilateral. The arrangement of the comb plates gives the appearance of the radial symmetry, and the tentacles and branching of gastrovascular canals are showing the bilateral symmetry. So this is the perfect example of biradial symmetry. In the enteromeres, on either side of one plane are different from the antimers on either side of the other plane. For example, in sea anemone, the two sides of the body are very much different. Two parts are very much different. The principal axis is the oroarboreal axis, that is heteropolar. For example, ctenophore and anthozoans, sea anemone. In the sea anemone, the biradial symmetry seems to have been derived from the radial type of primarily by the elongation of the mouth and associated parts. Now, the most important symmetry and the symmetry which is more abundant in nature is bilateral symmetry. Animals with bilateral symmetry are most well suited for directional movements. Bilateral symmetry is the principal type of symmetry in the triploblastic organisms, that means higher organisms. It shows two parts, anterior and posterior. Anterior is the front end and the posterior part is the rear end. The left and right sides of most of the animals are nearly mirror images. That means they are very much similar. What are the advantages of bilateral symmetry? Bilateral symmetrical animals are more efficient than the other animals in seeking food, locating mates, and escaping from the predators. They can escape from predators very easily. So all these animals, they are higher organisms. This body plan works well for animals. If a body part is damaged, the animal can rely on an identical part on its other side. That means if one hand is damaged, we can do the same work with the other hand. This symmetry provides balance that aids movement. Anterior and dorsal defenses such as bones, shells and horns protect delicate internal organs. And the most important advantage of bilateral symmetry is bilateral symmetry usually has led into civilization. What is civilization? The process by which sensory organs and appendages became localized in the head, that is at the anterior end of the animal. As a result of cephalizations, these animals can sense and the new environment and respond more efficiently and more quickly. So these are the important advantages of bilateral symmetry. Thank you student for your attention. Hope you understood the topic. If you have any doubt or query, you can contact me on my mail ID. Thank you again. Have a great day.